An unexpected wardrobe mishap at work. The Millionaire CEO reacted differently. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. Elena Moore stands near the glass conference table, fingers lightly gripping a printed report, her heartbeat louder than the quiet hum of the air conditioner. She has worked at Crosswell Group for 11 months, 6 days a week, arriving before sunrise and leaving long after the elevators slow, learning how to make herself invisible in a building designed for powerful men. Elena does not dream here. She survives. Her dress this morning is modest, navy blue, carefully chosen to blend in, bought on clearance and steamed twice in her tiny apartment. When her name is called, she rises, steadying her breath, and takes 3 careful steps forward. That is when she hears it. A soft, unforgiving tear, not loud enough to stop the room, but sharp enough to stop her heart. She freezes. Time narrows. The polished floor feels colder beneath her heels. She knows before she looks. Behind her, fabric has betrayed her. No one laughs. No one speaks. Laptops remain open. Pens hover midair. In the silence, Elena feels something worse than noise. She feels eyes choosing where not to land. Shame spreads up her spine, hot and uncontrollable. She thinks of her mother telling her to always be careful, to never give people a reason to doubt her. She thinks of rent due in 9 days. She considers pretending nothing happened, finishing her presentation, walking out with dignity. But dignity feels fragile right now. At the head of the table sits Julian Cross, the founder, the billionaire, the man whose presence alone tightens the room. He is not moved. He has not looked away. His gaze is calm, unreadable, fixed not on her body but on her face, as if anchoring her to something solid. Elena waits for the inevitable. A pause, a polite dismissal, a quiet email from Human Resources later that afternoon. This is how stories like hers usually end. Instead, Julian stands. Chairs shift. Breath catches. His voice is even, controlled, carrying authority without volume. He says the meeting is over. He says the responsibility is his. No explanation. No names. He removes his tailored jacket and places it on the back of her chair without touching her, without meeting her eyes, giving her cover without spectacle. Then he leaves the room first, taking the weight of the moment with him. Elena remains standing, wrapped in borrowed silence, knowing that whatever just happened has changed something she cannot yet name, and that this was only the beginning. Her hands tremble as she slips into the jacket, the fabric warm, expensive, heavy with intention. Around her, co-workers avoid her gaze, already rewriting the story in their heads. Elena gathers her papers slowly, each movement deliberate, as if speed might shatter her composure. In the hallway, she leans against the wall and exhales for the first time, lungs burning. She does not cry. She refuses to. Crying would make this smaller than it is. What unsettles her most is not the accident, but the choice he made. Julian Cross did not protect her body. He protected her dignity. That distinction lingers. As the elevator doors close, she catches her reflection in the mirrored steel, wrapped in someone else's power, and wonders what it will cost her later. Outside, the city moves on, unaware that a single, quiet decision has shifted the direction of her life. Elena steps forward, unaware of the slow fire now lit between fear and gratitude, and unaware that the man who walked away first has just tethered his fate to hers in ways unseen yet. The next morning, Elena Moore wakes before her alarm, the echo of yesterday still pressed into her chest like a held breath. The jacket is folded on the chair across from her bed, dark fabric against pale wood, a quiet reminder that something unusual happened and did not resolve itself overnight. She does not touch it. She showers, dresses, and leaves her apartment while the city is still stretching awake, telling herself that today must be ordinary. Ordinary is safety. At Crosswell Group, ordinary is how you survive. By 7:30, she is at her desk, coffee cooling beside her keyboard, answering emails no one else wants to answer, organizing files no one notices. Unless they are missing. No one mentions the meeting. No one apologizes. No one asks if she is all right. The silence is professional, polished, and sharp at the edges. Elena feels it everywhere. In the way conversations pause when she walks by. In the way people suddenly find reasons to look at their screens. She expected this. What she did not expect is the absence of consequence. There is no summons from human resources. No calendar invite marked urgent. Her access badge still works. Her name remains on project threads. It unsettles her more than punishment would have. At 10:15, an email arrives from executive operations. A short note. Her afternoon tasks have been reassigned, and she is to support a different archive review, one that requires focus and minimal foot traffic. It reads like efficiency. It feels like containment. Elena reads it twice, then once more, searching for implication. She closes her eyes and exhales slowly. Protection has a shape. It also has a cost. Across the building, Julian Cross stands in his office, the city framed behind him in steel and glass. He has already received 3 messages asking if he is all right, if everything is under control, if he wants a statement prepared. He deletes them all. He remembers another conference room. Years ago, another woman frozen in place while others decided silence was safer than intervention. He remembers doing nothing. Today, he chose differently. That choice will ripple. He knows this. He accepts it. He does not ask for praise. He does not ask for understanding. He returns to work. Around noon, Elena passes him in the corridor outside the elevators. It happens too quickly to prepare for. He nods once, a neutral acknowledgement. No pause, no intrusion. It should feel dismissive. Instead, it feels deliberate. He is giving her space. The elevator doors close, and Elena realizes her hands are shaking again. She presses them together, grounding herself. The rest of the day passes in small, careful increments. She eats lunch alone. She finishes her tasks early and asks for more. When 5:30 arrives, she remains seated, unwilling to be the first to leave, unwilling to appear fragile. At 6:42, another email arrives, this one addressed to all staff. A brief notice about updated workplace standards regarding incidents, privacy, and professional responsibility. No names. No references. Just clarity. Elena reads it slowly, heat blooming behind her eyes. This is not about her job. This is about her dignity. That night, she rides the subway home, jacketless, watching reflections blur in the darkened windows. She thinks about how easily yesterday could have broken her. She thinks about how easily power could have been used to silence her instead of shield her. In her apartment, she finally picks up the jacket. It smells faintly of clean linen and something warmer beneath. She does not know what this means. She only knows that a line has been crossed, not by scandal, but by intention. Somewhere between fear and gratitude, something unfamiliar begins to take shape. Elena sets the jacket back down, untouched, and sits on the edge of her bed, aware that tomorrow will ask more of her than today did, and that whatever is unfolding is far from over. By the 3rd day, the building itself feels different to Elena Moore, as if the walls have learned her name without ever saying it out loud. Crosswell Group is still polished marble and controlled lighting, still quiet hallways that smell faintly of coffee and ambition, but now every step she takes carries an awareness she did not have before. Power has a shape here. It is not loud. It is not flashy. It moves through schedules and seating arrangements, through who gets copied on emails and who does not. Elena understands this better than anyone because she lives on the edge of it. She is not invited into rooms where decisions are born. She is invited afterward to organize the aftermath. That is her role, or it was. Since the meeting, people have begun to look at her differently, not with cruelty, but with curiosity that unsettles her more. She hears her name spoken softly when she passes the break room. She notices how conversations shift when she enters shared spaces. It is as if the accident has elevated her without her consent, placing her under a light she never asked for. At 9:45, she is asked to deliver files to the executive floor, something she rarely does. The elevator ride feels longer than usual, the numbers ticking upward with an unfamiliar weight. When the doors open, the space is quieter, carpet thicker, voices lower. She keeps her eyes forward, reminding herself that she belongs wherever she is told to be. Julian Cross's office door is closed. She does not look at it. She refuses to look at it. Power, she has learned, is often about restraint. She places the files where instructed and turns to leave, only to hear her name spoken calmly behind her. She stops. She does not turn immediately. That half-second feels important. When she does face him, Julian is standing a few feet away, hands relaxed at his sides, expression neutral. He does not smile. He does not apologize. He does not explain. He thanks her for her work. The words are simple. The tone is precise. It would be easy to misread it as nothing. Elena nods, thanks him, and turns to go, but something tight in her chest does not release. As she walks back to the elevator, she realizes that this is the true imbalance between them. He can decide when to speak and when to remain silent. He can choose distance without consequence. She cannot. For the rest of the day, that awareness hums beneath everything she does. At her desk, she completes her tasks with care bordering on obsession. She double-checks dates, aligns margins, reorders files that no one will notice unless they are wrong. This is how she maintains control. Yet control feels thinner now. At lunch, she eats quickly, eyes down, listening to the rhythm of the room rather than the words. She hears fragments, speculation wrapped in politeness, questions no one dares ask directly. Did he know her before? Did she do something to earn that response? Elena swallows and reminds herself that she owes no one an explanation. Still, the power gap presses in. Julian Cross can end conversations without speaking. Elena must endure them without responding. That afternoon, an internal memo circulates outlining revised procedures for incident management and employee privacy. It is clear, firm, and effective. It also makes something else clear. This was not a spontaneous act. It was a decision backed by authority. Elena feels a strange mix of relief and unease. Being protected by power does not erase its presence. It amplifies it. As the workday winds down, she receives a message requesting her attendance at a small review meeting later in the week. Nothing urgent, nothing alarming. Yet her pulse quickens. She understands now that every interaction with Julian Cross exists within a larger framework she cannot see, but must navigate. On her commute home, she watches the city blur past the train windows and thinks about how quickly circumstances can shift without warning. She thinks about how dignity can be preserved or destroyed by a single choice. Above all, she thinks about the unspoken agreement that now exists between her and a man who occupies a different world. He has power she does not. She has something else he seems to recognize. Elena steps off the train into the evening air, knowing that the distance between them has been defined, not closed, and that the tension of that distance will only grow from here. The review meeting is scheduled for Thursday afternoon, placed gently on Elena Moore's calendar with no explanation and no agenda, which somehow makes it heavier than any urgent request. By the time the day arrives, she has already imagined a dozen outcomes and dismissed them all as unproductive. She arrives early, as always, carrying a slim folder she prepared twice, her posture composed, her breathing measured. The room assigned is smaller than the main conference spaces, tucked away from foot traffic, a place designed for conversations that do not need an audience. When she steps inside, Julian Cross is already there, standing near the window with his hands loosely clasped behind his back, the city spread beneath him in orderly lines. He turns when he hears her, not startled, as if he expected her precise timing. He gestures for her to sit, then takes the chair across from her, leaving a careful distance between them. The silence that follows is not awkward. It is deliberate. Elena waits. She has learned that waiting is safer than filling space with assumptions. Julian begins by thanking her for coming, then for her continued work on the archive review. His words are measured, neutral, impossible to misinterpret as personal. She responds in kind, professional, and brief. This is how power maintains balance, by keeping everything within acceptable lines. Then he pauses. The pause is small, but Elena feels it immediately. He asks her how she is doing. The question is simple. It is also dangerous. Elena considers her answer carefully. She could say she is fine, that everything is normal, that she is grateful. She could also say nothing. Instead, she chooses honesty without vulnerability. She tells him she is doing her job. Julian nods once as if this is exactly what he expected. He tells her that the meeting earlier in the week was mishandled, not by her, but by the structure that allowed silence to masquerade as professionalism. He says he does not intend to repeat that mistake. He does not ask for forgiveness. He does not ask for thanks. He states facts, and facts carry weight in rooms like this. Elena listens, her hands folded in her lap, heart steady but alert. When he finishes, she speaks, her voice quiet but firm. She tells him she does not want protection that turns into preference. She tells him she wants her work to stand on its own. Julian meets her gaze, considering. He tells her that fairness is not favoritism, and that correcting imbalance is not indulgence. The words land carefully between them, neither pushing nor retreating. When the meeting ends, he stands first and opens the door, allowing her to exit before him, a subtle reversal that does not go unnoticed. In the hallway, Elena feels lighter and heavier all at once. Something has been acknowledged without being named. Over the next week, the effects ripple outward. Her workload increases, not decreases. She is assigned tasks that require judgment, not just organization. She notices that her input is requested in emails rather than assumed. At the same time, the distance remains. Julian does not seek her out. He does not linger. He allows the structure to do what it was designed to do. This restraint unsettles Elena more than attention ever could. At home, she finds herself thinking about the way he listens, about how power looks when it chooses to step back rather than press forward. She tells herself this is professional curiosity. She tells herself it means nothing. Yet on Friday evening, as she leaves the building later than planned, she sees Julian across the lobby, speaking with a board member. Their eyes meet briefly. There is no smile, no acknowledgement beyond a slight incline of his head. Still, the moment lingers. Elena steps into the cool night air, aware that whatever has begun is not defined by gestures or words, but by the quiet space between them that continues to tighten, promising consequences neither of them has yet named. By the second week after the meeting, the tension no longer lives in what is said but in what is carefully avoided. Elena more notices it in the smallest ways, the kind that never appear in reports or calendars. Julian Cross no longer passes through her department without reason, yet his decisions continue to shape her days. Her assignments now require discretion and judgment, not just precision. She is trusted with materials meant for limited eyes, documents that hint at futures not yet announced. Trust, she learns, can be heavier than scrutiny. Each morning, she prepares herself with the same routine, steady and controlled, but something inside her has shifted. She is more aware of her posture, her tone, the way she holds silence. She understands now that she is visible in a way she was not before, not because she seeks attention, but because attention has found her. Around her, the office settles into a new rhythm. The initial curiosity fades, replaced by a quieter observation. People stop whispering, but they start watching. Elena senses the unspoken question that lingers. Why her? She answers it by working harder than necessary, by leaving nothing open to interpretation. One afternoon, a minor crisis unfolds when a data discrepancy threatens to delay a presentation to investors. Elena catches it early, stays late, and resolves it without escalating. The next morning, an acknowledgement appears in her inbox, brief and unsigned, but unmistakably deliberate. She recognizes the pattern now. Julian Cross does not praise publicly. He corrects privately and rewards competence with responsibility. The realization brings an unexpected warmth, followed immediately by caution. Power that is fair is still power. As days pass, Elena begins to notice something else, something more dangerous than attention. She begins to anticipate him. Not his presence, but his expectations. She thinks through problems the way she imagines he would, weighing consequences, choosing restraint over speed. It unsettles her to recognize this alignment. She does not want to orbit him. She wants to remain herself. Yet the pull is subtle and persistent. One evening, as she prepares to leave, she sees Julian standing near the security desk, jacket over his arm, expression distant. He looks tired, not the curated fatigue of long meetings, but the kind that settles into the eyes. For a moment, she considers walking past without acknowledgement, preserving the careful distance they have both maintained. Instead, she nods politely. He returns the gesture, then hesitates, just enough to be noticed. He asks if she is heading out. She confirms she is. He says nothing more, but they walk toward the exit at the same pace, not together, not apart. The silence between them is dense, filled with everything neither has named. Outside, The air is cool, the city alive with movement that has nothing to do with boardrooms or balance sheets. At the curb, they pause, the moment balanced on the edge of something undefined. Julian thanks her again, this time not for work, but for her professionalism during a challenging period. Elena meets his gaze, steady. She tells him she values clarity. He nods, as if this confirms something he already knew. They part without promises, without plans. On her commute home, Elena replays the encounter, searching for meaning. She finds none that can be safely claimed. What unsettles her is not attraction, though she cannot deny its quiet presence, but the recognition of mutual respect. Respect changes the rules. At home, she sits by the window, watching the lights flicker on across the city, and allows herself one honest thought before pushing it away. Julian Cross sees her, not as an accident, not as a problem, but as a choice. The realization is both grounding and dangerous. Elena understands now that the slow burn between them is not driven by desire alone, but by something far more destabilizing. Recognition. And recognition, once given, cannot be taken back. As she prepares for the next day, she knows the story is moving forward, not toward resolution, but toward a point where restraint will no longer be enough. And when that moment arrives, everything will change. The shift happens quietly, the way real turning points often do, without warning or witnesses. Elena Moore realizes it one evening when she is alone in the archive room, fluorescent lights humming softly above her as she finishes a review that should have taken half the time. She is tired, but it is not the physical exhaustion that slows her movements. It is the weight of awareness. Somewhere along the way, she stopped thinking of Julian Cross as an abstract presence and began thinking of him as a person with patterns, limits, and history. The realization unsettles her because it narrows the distance she has been carefully maintaining. She gathers her things and steps into the hallway, expecting emptiness, but instead finds Julian standing near the security door, jacket folded over his arm. Eyes fixed on something only he can see. He looks up when he hears her footsteps, surprise flickering briefly before control returns. He tells her it is late. She agrees. The exchange should end there. It does not. He asks if she would walk with him to the lobby. The request is simple, unremarkable, yet it feels heavier than any formal invitation. Elena hesitates only a moment before nodding. They walk side by side, not touching, their pace naturally aligned. In the elevator, the silence is different from before. It is no longer guarded. It is expectant. Julian breaks it by speaking first, his voice lower than usual. He tells her that the changes he made after the meeting were not easy. He tells her that people questioned his judgment, suggested alternatives, advised discretion. He chose clarity instead. Elena listens, her expression calm, but her chest tightens. She had not considered the cost to him. He continues, admitting that there was a time when he would have chosen differently, when protecting the institution mattered more than protecting the individual. He does not dramatize it. He states it as fact. Elena understands that this admission is not an apology. It is an explanation. When the elevator doors open, neither moves right away. The lobby is quiet, lights dimmed, the outside world waiting beyond glass doors. Elena finds her voice and tells him she never wanted to be a test case for his principles. Julian meets her gaze steadily and tells her she was not. He tells her that she was a reminder. The word lands with unexpected force. They step outside together, the night air cool and grounding. At the curb, they stop, the city moving around them in distant noise and light. Julian tells her he respects her boundaries, that he has no intention of complicating her work or her life. Elena believes him. That is what makes the moment dangerous. She tells him that respect does not erase impact, that his choices have changed how she is seen, including by herself. Julian absorbs this without interruption. When he speaks again, he tells her that if at any point she feels his presence is a liability, she should say so, and he will step back completely. The offer is real. Elena can feel it. She considers what it would mean to accept. Safety, distance, predictability. She also considers what it would mean to refuse. Growth, uncertainty, risk. She tells him she does not need him to step back. She needs him to be honest. Julian nods, something unguarded passing through his expression. They part with no promise to meet again, no exchange of numbers, no lingering touch. Yet as Elena walks away, She knows something irreversible has occurred. The unspoken line between them has shifted. At home, she sits in the quiet of her apartment, replaying the conversation, not for what was said, but for what was revealed. Julian Cross is not just a man with power. He is a man shaped by choices he regrets and choices he is still willing to make differently. That knowledge changes how she feels, not only about him, but about herself. She realizes that the turning point is not attraction or ambition. It is recognition. He has seen her strength without trying to claim it. She has seen his restraint without mistaking it for weakness. Elena understands now that whatever comes next will not be accidental. It will be chosen. And choice, she knows, carries consequences that neither of them can avoid. The pressure does not arrive all at once. It accumulates. Elena more feels it in the days following her conversation with Julian Cross, in the subtle tightening of the environment around her. Meetings she once attended quietly now carry a different tone. Her contributions are acknowledged more often, which should feel like progress, yet each acknowledgement draws a sharper line between her and everyone else. She notices how colleagues hesitate before speaking freely around her, how jokes soften and opinions become cautious. She has not asked for this distance, but it has formed anyway. Power reshapes rooms even when it tries to be gentle. The turning point comes on a Monday morning when a rumor surfaces, wrapped in professional language but heavy with implication. An offhand comment in the break room. A look held a second too long. Someone suggests, quietly, that Elena has become favored. The word lands like a bruise. Favored implies weakness hidden behind protection. Favored implies that her work alone is not enough. Elena feels anger rise, sharp and unwelcome. She swallows it and returns to her desk, but the idea lodges deep. That afternoon, she receives an invitation to a cross-departmental strategy session, a seat she would not have been offered months ago. She knows who authorized it. She also knows how it will be perceived. By the end of the day, she makes a decision that has been forming beneath her awareness for weeks. She requests a private meeting with Julian Cross. When she enters his office, the atmosphere is controlled but attentive. Julian senses the shift immediately. Elena does not sit. She tells him plainly that the environment has changed, that her presence now alters dynamics in ways she cannot manage. She tells him she will not build her career on assumptions about favoritism, no matter how unfair those assumptions may be. Julian listens without interruption, his expression tightening not with anger, but with recognition. When she finishes, he tells her that perception is not always truth, but it is always powerful. He acknowledges that his choices have consequences beyond intention. Elena tells him she is considering transferring departments, or leaving entirely if necessary. The words hang between them, heavy and irrevocable. For the first time, Julian responds emotionally rather than strategically. He tells her he does not want to lose her. The admission is quiet, controlled, but unmistakable. Elena feels the impact immediately, not as relief, but as grief. She tells him that this is exactly the problem. Wanting her changes the balance. Julian closes his eyes briefly, as if steadying himself. He tells her that stepping back would not erase the reality of what has already happened. He tells her that protecting her from gossip by withdrawing now would only confirm it. Elena understands the logic. She also understands the cost. She leaves the meeting with no resolution, her thoughts tangled and restless. Over the next days, the tension escalates. A project she leads is questioned publicly in a way that feels performative. A colleague challenges her decision aggressively, then backs down when a senior manager intervenes. Elena hates the intervention more than the challenge. Each incident reinforces the same truth. She is no longer invisible. That night, she drafts a resignation letter and does not send it. She revises it twice, then closes the file. The next morning, Julian announces a company-wide restructuring of reporting lines, separating executive oversight from project evaluation more clearly than before. It is a systemic change, not a personal one, but everyone understands its origin. The move quiets some of the noise and amplifies others. Elena realizes that Julian is fighting a larger battle than she anticipated, one that costs him political capital and professional goodwill. The knowledge does not comfort her. It complicates everything. When they cross paths later that week, there is strain where there was once restraint. Their conversations are shorter, their silence is heavier. Elena feels herself pulling away, not out of indifference, but out of self-preservation. She knows that something must break, either the tension or the connection itself. As she leaves the building on Friday evening, resignation letter still unsent, she understands that the next choice she makes will define not only her future, but his. And neither of them can pretend anymore that the cost will be small. The quiet climax arrives not with confrontation, but with absence. On Monday morning, Elena Moore submits her resignation letter before she can reconsider, timing it for early hours when the office is still waking. The email is brief, professional, and restrained, thanking the company for the opportunity and citing the need for a different environment to continue growing. She does not mention Julian Cross. She does not mention rumors or pressure. She chooses dignity over explanation. When she presses send, her hands do not shake. What follows is a strange calm, as if the decision has lifted a weight she did not realize she was carrying. She spends the morning completing handover notes, labeling folders, leaving nothing unfinished. Colleagues react with surprise that borders on disbelief. Some offer polite concern. Others offer relief masked as support. No one asks the question she knows they are thinking. At noon, a message arrives requesting her presence in the executive conference room. She does not respond immediately. She finishes her current task, saves her work, and then stands, smoothing her jacket as if preparing for something ceremonial. When she enters the room, Julian is alone. He looks up, and for the first time since they met, he does not attempt neutrality. His expression is controlled, but the restraint is thin. He tells her he received her resignation. She confirms it. He asks why she did not speak to him first. Elena answers honestly, saying that if she had, she might not have been able to choose herself. The words hang in the air, sharp and quiet. Julian absorbs them slowly. He tells her he understands, but his voice betrays the effort required to say it. He tells her he respects her decision. He also tells her he will not accept it immediately. Elena frowns, surprised. Julian explains that the company is undergoing a structural review that will affect reporting lines, authority boundaries, and evaluation processes. He tells her he is implementing changes that will outlast both of them, regardless of her choice. Elena listens, conflicted. She tells him that structural change does not erase personal impact. Julian agrees. He tells her that the change is not for her. It is because of her. The distinction matters. He hands her a document outlining new policies that separate executive influence from project assessment, that formalize protections against informal favoritism and rumor-driven hierarchy. The language is precise. The implications are vast. Elena realizes that this decision will cost him leverage, alliances, and time. She asks him why he is doing this now. Julian answers without hesitation. Because it should have been done before. The honesty unsettles her. This is not a grand gesture. It is not romantic. It is costly and quiet and irreversible. Elena understands that he is choosing principle over control, even if it means losing her. She tells him that she still intends to leave. Julian nods, accepting the boundary without argument. He tells her that he wanted her to know that the environment she is leaving will not remain the same, that the next person will not face what she did. Elena feels something soften inside her, not relief, but recognition. They stand in silence, the weight of everything unspoken filling the space. Julian thanks her, not as a leader thanking an employee, but as a man acknowledging the catalyst for his own change. Elena thanks him for listening when it mattered. They part without promise or expectation. That evening, the company-wide announcement is released. The restructuring is framed as evolution, as commitment to fairness and clarity. The reaction is immediate and mixed. Some praise the leadership. Others question the timing. Elena reads it from her apartment, resignation letter still pending final processing, and feels the quiet satisfaction of having mattered without needing to stay. The next morning, she packs her desk, moving through the office unnoticed again, but this time by choice. As she leaves the building for the last time, she does not look back. She steps into the city, aware that something has ended cleanly and something else has been set in motion. What happens next is no longer contained within policy or walls. It belongs to the space beyond them, where choices are not dictated by hierarchy, and where the consequences of honesty have only just begun to unfold. Time does what it always does. It moves forward quietly, reshaping meaning without asking permission. 3 months after Elena Moore leaves Crosswell Group, her days look different. She works at a smaller firm now, one with fewer floors and less glass, where her ideas are heard without speculation and her presence does not bend the room. The work is challenging in a different way, requiring adaptability rather than endurance. She finds satisfaction in it, a steady sense of alignment she had not realized she was missing. Occasionally, she reads industry news out of habit, and when Crosswell Group is mentioned, it is almost always in connection with its new governance model, the one praised for transparency and fairness. Julian Cross's name appears less often than before. When it does, the tone has changed. He is described as deliberate, principled, quieter than he once was. Elena reads these articles without lingering, but she does not ignore the connection. She understands that some choices echo beyond their moment. One evening, as autumn settles into the city and the air carries a hint of rain, Elena stops at a small coffee shop near her apartment, the kind with worn tables and low music. She orders her usual and waits near the window, watching pedestrians hurry past. When the door opens behind her, she does not turn right away. She senses the presence before she recognizes it. Julian Cross stands a few steps away, coat unbuttoned, expression open in a way she has never seen before. There is no surprise in his eyes, only recognition. He does not assume the moment belongs to him. He waits. Elena turns slowly, meeting his gaze, her heartbeat steady. He asks if he may sit. The question matters. She nods. They talk, not about the past, not about work, but about the city, about time, about what it feels like to choose differently and live with it. Julian tells her he stepped down from day-to-day leadership, that he is focusing on long-term structure rather than immediate control. Elena listens, not as an employee, not as a catalyst, but as an equal. When she tells him about her new role, he listens, with the same attention he once reserved for boardrooms. There is no promise made. There is no grand confession. Yet something has shifted into place, balanced and real. When they part, Julian does not follow her. He lets the moment remain what it is. Elena walks home under streetlights that cast long reflections on wet pavement, aware that not all connections are meant to be rushed or resolved. Some exist to remind us of who we can be when we choose integrity over convenience. As she reaches her building, she pauses, looking back once, not to see if he is there, but to acknowledge the quiet satisfaction of a story that ended without being forced. What Elena learned was not that power can be softened by kindness, but that true strength reveals itself through restraint. What Julian learned was not that one decision could redeem him, but that listening can reshape an entire system. This story is not about romance defined by possession or rescue. It is about respect, timing, and the courage to step away when staying would cost too much. Sometimes, the most meaningful endings are the ones that leave room for choice. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you of a moment when dignity mattered more than outcome, we invite you to show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Share it with someone who might need the reminder that real change often begins quietly. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next story.